for their roles, active or passive, in creating and disseminating this virus. And the patent system in the United States means that you can actually patent the structure of a novel virus, which you've created or helped create as a bioweapon. And then you can insert the same sequence, which is what's happened with this spike protein, into...
This is terrifying, because they could create a virus. You could create a virus at any level, one that does a little bit of damage, like the COVID virus, to cause global disruption. Or you could create one that made people quite sick. Or you could make one that had a mortality rate of over 90%. You know, it's kind of a flexible production line almost that could be done. And, you know, this research really does need to be taken with the same level as threat, in my view, as a nuclear war or ecological catastrophe.
Yes, and unless you place the responsibility on the individual, you're going to get nowhere, because what we've got now is a psychopathic system, global system, which is it's really been going on for the whole of my lifetime, because if we look back, and we see it originating in DARPA, which is a branch of the Pentagon, and it's appalling. But there's no point in attacking the Pentagon, but you must make sure, and this is a high responsibility of the International Criminal Court, which has got all the evidence from Trito and myself on the origins of the virus and individual roles. Yes, other people, of course, have been duped in to be part of the system, including the press and normal people who believe in conspiracy theories. Well, this is not a theory.
No. I've had the misfortune of working with psychopaths in my life. And what I've discovered is that they're actually highly pragmatic. Very often they're intelligent, and they realise, sometimes psychopaths realise, that actually becoming an obvious criminal psychopath is not very good. So they'll become a chief executive or a lawyer or a doctor, or, you know, they will channel that into pragmatic modalities. And one of the pragmatic modalities is not so much fear of punishment, but an acknowledgement that punishment will interfere their ability to be psychopathic and to manipulate in future. So the idea of personal accountability, I think, is probably absolutely crucial, because if not, they'll just carry on. But if there's a personal threat, then even though they might not care, pragmatically, they'll realise it's going to interfere with their performance, and that will moderate their behaviour.
Yeah, well, you know, there's all sorts of degrees of emotional empathy, and that it's the true psychopath or sociopath, because basically sociopathy in a profession, for example, such as medicine,
we've all seen it. We've all seen it.
What you see is the development of targeted aggression.
Yep.
Whereby you use your own special expertise to harm others, so anyway, I'm very interested. I've long been interested in human evolution, and came at an understanding, or at least an interest in mankind's past.
Yeah, I want to do that, David. But just before we do that, how long do you think? Now, and it's a completely unfair question, but it interests me. How long do you think people have looked like me, white?
Well, I'm sure it's maybe 13 or more than 13,000 years.
So
I mean,
relatively recently
yes,
in human
yes.
history.
Well, we don't know because I think I understand fairly well the last time that mankind and a whole number of large mammals were under threat of extinction. I mean, that was 12,900 years ago.
Yeah.
The onset of the so-called Younger Dryas cooling. But there were almost certainly the whole of the ice ages there were threats. So it may well be that the pale-skinned humans go back 50,000 or 60 or 100,000 years.
But the only advantage of being white really is to make the vitamin D, isn't it? I mean,
Absolutely.
that's
yes.
the principal advantage. You might make some more nitric oxide and things, but
yes,
I mean, it's vitamin D. The main evolutionary driver of being white is vitamin D production.
Yes,
and why don't people realise that as an indicator of how important and essential vitamin D is? That it's worth changing your whole skin colour to get more.
Yeah.
And yet, because we live indoors now, the governments don't recommend giving some extra vitamin D. It just seems so obvious.
Well, yes, yes. And the question, I mean, there's a major question is how much vitamin D? And it's interesting going back into the 100 years or so, when at one time, I think it was in the 1920s, Glaxo actually marketed vitamin D, and and one of the first Nobel Prizes was given to Niels Finsen, who discovered that ultraviolet light protected you against tuberculosis of the skin. So the knowledge of vitamin D's role in the immune system goes back well over 100 years.
And now, with the advantage of hindsight, we can look at Niels Finsen's work and give a molecular explanation, a biochemical explanation for why that's working, can't we? That the ultraviolet light is going to produce the vitamin D. The vitamin D is going to be converted into the active form of vitamin D, the 25-OH vitamin D. That's going to be used by all of the white cells in the body that are required for immunity.
Yes, well, 25-hydroxy is the reservoir form.
That's right, yeah.
It's not actually biologically active as far as we know itself.
No.
It's got to be converted to 125. But
that step only takes a few hours, doesn't it?
Oh, it's very, very, very quick. The problem is that vitamin D is only used once.
Yep.
Because it codes for its own destruction.
Yep.
It codes for an enzyme 24-hydroxylase, which converts 125 to 124-25, which is, as far as we know, inactive. And this codes for well over 1,000 genes. The estimates have been up to 2,700 genes, which is clearly it's right at the centre of our protection.
Why don't people get that about 10% of our genes, about 10% of human genetics doesn't work without vitamin D?
Yes. And it's very interesting that I think that in the course of our evolution, our species has been threatened mainly by meteorite impacts of varying sizes. Everyone knows about Chicxulub and the extinction of the dinosaurs some 70 million years ago. What is, I think, really interesting, bringing us up to date, is that the last big extinction of big animals was around 12,900 years ago.
And people don't realise the amount of megafauna that existed up until that time. It was all over Europe. There's the famous tar pits where they've picked out a lot of these skeletons in is it Texas or California? But we used to
California,
have
I think, yeah.
huge versions of everything,
Yes.
massive things, you know, and we simply don't have them anymore.
Well, absolutely, and I have been interested in this for a long time. As you know, my wife and I spent from 1991 to for 20 years or so in Hong Kong, and I got very interested in in Chinese culture, ancient culture, and this is another example of mainstream denial. It's quite extraordinary that there was this Hongshan culture, which you could, in Hong Kong, you could just buy obviously authentic pieces of jade carving and other carvings, and I got very interested in this, and I'm still interested in it from the point of view of what actually happened 12,900 years ago. And what is absolutely central to what happened was wiping out of all of the large mammals, including most humans, in North America.
A proper human bottleneck.